Hi, this is Marty Brown and you're with Noisegate. I was always playing in lots of different bands and was just very, kind of came down to me to be the one to record it, put things out, kind of get the band gigs. I was just motivated in that respect. And I think I always just had a bit of an interest in it as well, just recording with cassette tape decks back when I was a kid, and then progressed onto a 4-track reel-to-reel, which I've only just kind of got out of the back shed recently and started to mess around with again, do some loops and whatnot. So yeah, so I would just use that, and that was my kind of playtime as a kid and late teenager, just recording onto cassettes and doing kind of backwards things on the reel-to-reel. So just developed from there, and I think I got a band when I was probably in my early 20s that started to, I was just kind of writing songs that I was just very impressed by, and so I wanted to crank up the whole process a little bit, so borrowed some money off my parents, thanks Dad. For that, and with that I bought a tape machine, a desk and a couple of mics, and I went from there, and then I just kind of ploughed in my money into it ever since, as one does with recording gear.
Totally.
Yeah.
A never-ending.
It's a never-ending pit, but it's a very enjoyable pit, so that's a good thing.
If you need to talk.
I end up recording lots of bands that I play in, but the sessions I really like are always bands playing live in a room, like just all musicians playing live in a room type setting. I always find them just incredible in terms of the things that you can capture and just the excitement in the room essentially. But a couple of standout ones, like string sections, like every time I have a string day, I always love that. And so often these days I'll kind of move out of my studio and go to like the Abbotsford Convent or Freemasons Hall around the corner just to get a big reverby Abbey Road Studio 2 type sound. Just a couple of mics and a few musicians. That's always amazing. And apart from string sections, I recently did one for my my wife Clare Bowditch's album. We had 3 backup singers, and a similar thing kind of went into Abbotsford Convent. They've been singing, they're a group called Aluka. They've been singing for years and years and years, so they just kind of know each other's harmonies and just can work out harmonies just like that. And yeah, similar kind of thing, just them down one end, microphone down the other, press record, and it just creates a completely different sound as to what you can capture with adding your reverb plugins or anything like that. It just puts it in a completely different space and just makes a recording sing essentially. No, I always try and pretty much as soon as I hear demos from people, I try and imagine exactly how it's going to sound and just where everything I want placed, like what the arrangement's going to be and then what those sounds are going to be like. So then I can adjust exactly how I'm miking something up and placing it as everything gets built up essentially. And obviously you get things wrong and then you have to kind of mess with it to get it back into where it was, or you realise that was a wrong decision and you shouldn't have mic'd it up like that, and you have to kind of change things. But yeah, essentially I'm kind of always searching for getting it as near to the vision as possible, as early as possible, because I think that just gives it the most coherent sound. Like every time, the thing that creates bad sounds in a studio environment is having to change things a lot. Like if you can kind of keep it as pristine as it is, that just always comes up with the best sound.
Nothing holy, born of a stone.
No, I think it was just in the Trading Post, which is probably something you don't remember, young Andy, but thing that used to exist before eBay. And so I think that was just one of the desks that was in the Trading Post on that particular day where I got my money from my dad, thanks Dad again, and went out to buy it. I think it was, apparently it was a band that you wouldn't remember called Chocolate Starfishes, live mixing desk, so it kind of toured around the country many times, and so because of that it's seen better days. So it was very cheap for what it was. Like, it probably would have been a, you know, like an $80,000 or $100,000 desk back in the day, but I got it for a couple of grand because it had done the rounds of Australia that many times that it was falling apart. So it's one of those things that is actually quite good, and I've used it a lot. And when I was recording on tape all the time, you know, you would have to do the live mixes, and it all worked quite well. And you know, lots of that stuff that got recorded on the tape machine and mixed through that, you know, did extremely well. So it does work, but yeah, it's one of those aspects that I would like to improve in the future. But just trying to find the right desk is always quite tricky.
All the trouble that you had held dear.
Yeah, so many great mics out there, and also useful for so many different things. I think the one I was talking about the other day is the Gefell MT71, which has got same capsule as a U47 and M7 capsule, or the original U47, and then but it's non-valve, but that's my kind of main vocal mic, and that just always sounds awesome. I actually haven't found a singer that it doesn't sound perfect on, essentially straight away. And what else do I use a lot of? AEA ribbon microphones I use a lot of, and then just great dynamics. Like, I think so many dynamic mics get overlooked these days, especially the 441 I'm a big fan of. What else have I got? That Bayer 201 on snare often, or like a Calrec condenser pencil instead on the snare, and 421s for toms. So it's like just having the right mic for the right job is often usually the thing. So it's nice to have a big collection and just kind of going, this is the bass cab mic, it's a kick drum mic, and just kind of knowing how each one works and how it's going to sound, and you can kind of get those sounds very quickly then. All my drum microphones are generally always set up around my drum kit. You know, it only takes 10 minutes or so to kind of get a drum sound, which just saves hours and hours and hours. I've been using for a long time an AMEC 9098 pre and EQ into Alan Smart C2 as a kind of just like, that's the main line, especially like as a vocal channel, but that's kind of like the main line setup if you're just using one microphone. And that is excellent, very smooth. But I also have one of the Universal Audio 6176, which I got probably like, I think that was the first kind of high-end piece of equipment I've got. I've recently kind of come back around to using that more and more often. Just something about the punch that it has a little bit more, just kind of a little bit more pokes out of a mix than what the AMEC does. So that's kind of become my new go-to. About a year or 2 years ago, I got a Shure Level Lock, one of those old school compressors that you know, Tame Impala and lots of the kind of modern MGMT and kind of those modern psych rock bands have been using a lot of, and I've been loving that. At the moment I've got by my drums an AEA ribbon microphone straight into that, and so it's kind of getting recorded straight as I'm playing. It's kind of nice. So while you're playing it, I'm just often just adjusting what the input is, because it's only got the one control, but it just makes such a massive difference as to how it gets smashed in the box. So you just have to set it as you're recording essentially, and that's it, and it's locked away. I quite like that, just settling in on a sound and having that dictate almost how you play the instrument as well.
Sure.
But yeah, it's locked away, and then, you know, there's no messing around with plugins later. It's just done and dusted.
Commit it and forget it.
And move on. Well, I think that's the great thing about starting off on recording on tape machine. But yeah, I had a 24-channel tape machine, so just having to always decide, is this the take or not? And if there was one tiny little drum fill or a little bit of guitar, especially drums, usually when I was recording myself, I have to be like, no, that was almost perfect apart from that one little bar. Delete and let's go again. Yeah, you get very good at your instrument when you have to have that kind of pressure on yourself, as opposed to just being able to kind of cut out these little bits and pieces. But it also, it's good for a producer just to be able to realise, is this what I want out of this take? And make that decision straight away and just only keep one. well, it just makes you realise, work out what you want from the take and sound, and if you don't have that straight away, if you're feeling kind of not 100% about it, then you need to redo and move on, as opposed to, I'll just keep it and mess with it later.
And so I needed help. Oh, I needed to.
That's a good question. Well, I would say one of my things that I like doing the most is just helping a musician arrange their music. So I often get lots of singer-songwriters in that don't have a band, and together we'll put it, piece the song together and make a beautiful arrangement for that. Having kind of all the instruments here and being able to play most of them between me and whoever the singer-songwriter is, we can kind of get everything done essentially. So I think that's probably my biggest forte.
If you need to rise, if you need.
Well, obviously just getting amongst it and doing it, you just kind of learn on the job. It's pretty amazing these days, and I do it all the time still, well, can do it now at least, but as soon as I have a question about something, just being able to Google the answers, or just seeing how other people use bits and pieces of gear, and what kind of plug-in settings or etc. is amazing. So I essentially was just working by myself and buying gear and working out how to use it. So kind of felt like I was reinventing the wheel with so many things. You don't have to do that these days. Just get on the old interwebs and you can sort yourself out straight away.
For the days burn through me like a winter.
More that mixing desk, replacing that guy, I think that might be high on the list. Possibly not, I don't think. There's always bits and pieces that I really want, like a real plate reverb. Just don't come up very often. I think all the things I really want are just so infrequent to pop up that just have to bide my time a little bit. But yeah, I think the studio space works out quite nicely for most things, and then if there's something that's a little bit bigger, then I just find a bigger space. So I'm kind of pretty settled, really.
If you need to talk, if you need to talk to get through.
Thank you.
Drawing the lines I would be coloring.